free from all troubles, either from the landlord himself, his agents, his assigns, his legal representative, and anyone who is claiming through him. So we have seen situations where landlords often find a way to continue to trouble their tenants, and this often leave the tenant frustrated. We have seen situations where the tenant haven't paid huge amounts of money as rent for a property. The landlord keeps troubling that tenant, and the tenant is unable to enjoy the money which he has paid for that particular property. Now, today we are going to be looking at how do you salvage this situation. You have paid millions of naira to enjoy a property for a particular defined term. Now, what do you do? What can be done to manage the situation to ensure that these troubles that you are already in, how do you come out of it? That's what we are going to be looking at today. Now, one of the first things you need to do is to understand that there are rights and responsibilities that you enjoy and perform in any property you enter. Now, being an occupant of a property which you legally entered by virtue of the rent you paid and the tenancy agreements you entered with the landlord, you are bound to enjoy peaceable possession of the property which you have rented. This means that you should be free from disturbances from anyone, including the landlord and other tenants in the property. Where the landlord ends up bringing troubles here and there, you must ensure that the terms which you entered into with your landlord is invoked. So once you invoke those terms, the landlord is bound to respect your rights in that property. Now, you must ensure that you understand the terms of the contract which you are entering. It is when you understand the terms of the contract which you are entering with the landlord that you're able to enforce your rights when there is any breach. Also, you won't know that there is a breach of your rights when you do not understand the content of the agreement you have entered. The agreement you enter with your landlord defines your rights, defines your duties. Once you have performed those rights, those duties as contained in the tenancy agreement, you ought to enjoy the rights which are also there. And like I said earlier, peaceable possession is one of those rights. And having the property in a habitable condition is another right which you should enjoy in that property. But if it happens that the landlord keeps coming to interfere with your enjoyment of the property, then you must ensure that the content of that agreement is invoked. Now, another thing you need to do is to ensure that you read and understand everything that is contained in the agreement that you are signing. Now, one of the things you find some landlords do is to insert certain terms that they know if they were in the shoes of the tenant, they cannot abide with. No. Now, what you need to do is to ensure every line of the agreement you are signing is understood by you before signing such documents. Because once you sign, it means you are bound by the terms that are contained in that agreement. If it states that you must return to the property by 6 p.m. and you sign without taking note of it, when you come back by 7 p.m., it means you have violated the terms of that agreement. That may bring troubles which can easily be resolved if only you read and understood the contents of the agreement before you sign same with the landlord. You must also ensure that during the period of reading through this agreement, where you have any doubts as to what certain terms mean in the agreement, you should ensure you either get a lawyer to review such contract that you are entering with the landlord, or you draw the attention of the landlord to explain such terms to you. That way, when there is any dispute, you can always hold him by the word which he gave you before entering into that contract with him. Then another thing you need to do is to make your request in writing. Now, you often find out that when a tenant ask the landlord for a permission to make some structural adjustments to the property he is occupying, the landlord often gives consent. And now, if it happens that consent is given, and the understanding is that whatever the tenant spends in making such structural adjustment to the property will be deducted from the subsequent rent. Now, if you are making such request orally and there's a dispute at the end of the day, there is no way you can prove that you actually got such consent from the landlord. So you must ensure that every request that you are making to the landlord is in writing. This will save you of the trouble of disputing whether or not consent was given. Even if the landlord agrees that consent was given, he may not agree that he consented to you spending such amount of money or using certain materials, because he may say what was agreed on was you spend, let's say, 1 million naira to fix the property, and he prescribed a particular product which you must use to fix the property. But because maybe you have high standards, you decide to, let's say,